So today we are going to test run my Hagland and try it out over some obstacles and stuff. You see, we've been playing with it a little bit to get an idea of what it needs, what I still need to do to it. So we're going to go over all that stuff, what the plan is for it to get it ready for this winter recovery season. On one hand, I've got a lot to do. On the other hand, this thing is amazing and borderline ready to go. So we're going to try it out some. One thing right off the bat, when I pulled it off the trailer and took it over this pile and got it at a steep angle, it kind of locked itself into neutral and wouldn't go. We got that figured out. That was just the transmission low on fluid. Got it topped off. Now, no issues. Now, speaking of the transmission in this thing, when I did the original video on it, I said it had a turbo 350 in it because I was told that it had a turbo 350 in it. But to me, this right here looks a whole lot more like a Chrysler 727 TorqueFlite transmission. And what makes me think that is because this is a Chrysler 727 TorqueFlite transmission. And that is way better than a turbo 350 and makes a whole lot of sense seeing as how it's behind a Chrysler 318 with no adapter plates or anything in between. See, the Hagland here uses a two-wheel drive transmission setup with a two-wheel drive tail shaft off the back of it. Has this short little jack shaft that goes into the Hagland transfer case back here. As you can also see, it uses a pinion brake style setup. So this Hagland only has one brake to run all four tracks, and that brake is that one right there. But due to the gear reduction in the Haglands, or in any differential really, it amplifies the power of that single brake massively. A lot of you might be surprised to know, like in monster trucks, I used to race monster trucks. I've said that before, so that won't be a surprise. But in those big, powerful 10,000 pound, 1,500 horsepower monster truck, there's only two brakes. And they are on the pinion of the drive shaft where it goes into the rear end, because they use the gear reduction of the rear ends and the planetary gears on the hubs to amplify the power of the brakes. So it's the same. So that is how one brake on the pinion can be so much more powerful than a brake in the actual wheel sets. And so far, I can tell you that that brake works incredibly well in this thing, and it has a really, really good parking brake as well, which is handy. If you actually look in here, this has two separate calipers on one disc. So it's got a brake over there and a brake over here. This is your parking brake cable. So I'm not sure if this is the parking brake and that's a service brake. That is not actually the case in how it works, because there are hydraulic lines going to both. So both are your foot brakes. Like I said, this thing stops on a freaking dime with very little brake pressure. That works really well. Now, as you can see, like I said earlier, we've got the Chrysler 318 industrial version of the V8 in this thing. And how they did this swap when they swapped this thing over to V8, kind of interesting. There's some good news and some bad news about it. Let's start with the bad news as I go around to the other side over here. In that original video, I said the Haglands are amphibious and they can swim. Mine can't do that anymore. You can see right here, this is the plug that goes in the bottom of the Haglands, and it's a piece of like pipe thread plug goes in there to seal off the bottom of the tub. Makes the things float. Now this one is missing the plug in both the front and the rear body. Thought, cool, get new plugs for them put in. We got waterproof. But it's not so simple. If you look back in here, this right here is a transfer case decoupler. You can see it's got a custom hole cut in the back right there that it's not going to be waterproof. And you can also see where the exhaust comes up through right there. Those two big old hole saw holes cut in the tub. Definitely not going to be waterproof either. Now this decoupler is interesting. Back here, you can see the decoupler handle. This you pull out and lock, and it releases the transfer case from the back of the transmission here in the drive shaft and decouples the whole setup, so that if this thing breaks down or if anything goes wrong with it, you just pull that handle and it puts this whole unit in neutral, so you can tow it, pull it, recover it, winch it, whatever you got to do to get the thing out of there. Now, I don't know if the decoupler is factory on the Hagland or something that is in that particular setup there, since it's been all converted around, but man, do I ever wish all big trucks had some sort of driveline decoupler built into them. It'd make it so much easier when I tow stuff with my Zacklift here, so I wouldn't have to crawl under and unbolt drive shafts every single time. But back to our Hagland, if we look up here in the front, up underneath the V8 here, when they did the V8 swap, they put the exhaust straight down through the floor there. So now there are two more big hole saw holes up there. Definitely not gonna float and be watertight again. That ship has sailed. They now run the exhaust underneath, down underneath the tub right there, and back here it curves up, comes out the top under your dual exhaust right there. Now I said that's bad news and that's good news. It's bad news because my Hagland is not amphibious. Unless I got really wild with some spray foam, but we're not gonna do that. Now where that's good news is, I already had the idea of pulling this body off and building like a flatbed, more utility body that had some winches on it, maybe dual winches, so I can run dual winches off the back, kind of like a wrecker recovery bed. Obviously without the whole wheel lift setup like an actual wrecker has, but still dual winches for recovery on the bed. And maybe even more of a utility body setup like this to carry tools, gear, and supplies. Because when you're deep out in the woods and the wilderness and the snow and bad terrain where this thing is gonna be, having lots of tools, gear, and supplies is gonna be huge. That would also really improve my recovery ability with this unit if I got rid of that and put some sort of utility body recovery bed on the back of it. The one thing that was kind of holding me up from doing that though, in my thoughts of my head earlier, is this body is what makes the back half float. The fact that this is like a giant tub. So if I did that, I would lose my ability to be amphibious with this thing if I took this body off. But since the front half is no longer amphibious anyway, I got no reason not to do that. Because let's be real, this thing has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seats in it just on its own. That holds another 11, but I'm not in the people transport business. I'm in the go somewhere and get something done business. So the amount of people that'll fit in that half of it is gonna be plenty. So I'm thinking that means we are green light for a whole new rear bed project on this thing. But we do have some work to do in here. I want to clean all this out, get all this oil cleaned out of here. But now if there's extra drain holes in the floor, it should be super easy to flush out. Looks like we got a slight bit of seeping out of the tail shaft here. That's not a huge deal. And if that's something we get away, fly, why are you on me? If that's something we do need to end up fixing, it gets worse. You could see this thing is incredibly easy to work on. Pull that jack shaft out, unbolt the transmission, it comes right up and out of here super easy. I mean, I really don't want to have to do that, but if we do, this thing is pretty serviceable. But one more, much more pressing issue that we are gonna have to deal with like right away is up in here, that belt and this belt right here. We got to get both those replaced. This one actually looks in pretty decent shape, but I'm not only going to replace one. This one here, not the healthiest looking belt. And that runs up through here and drives this whole fan. But also you can see down there, there's a little drive shaft because this thing has a hydraulic pump and a bunch of other stuff that's driven off of it. I'm not 100% sure if that drive shaft drives the hydraulic pump up there, but I'll find that out soon. The only problem is that belt goes around that shaft, so I have to unbolt the drive shaft and pull it back to get the belt out, get a new one on, because we don't want belt problems out in the middle of nowhere. And this thing does, when you first fire it up and start going, you hit up the throttle, it does squeal the belt, but I would say that junk belt is probably why, so we're just going to get rid of that and replace it with new. These right here are heater tubes, come off our heater right here. When this whole shell goes back in, they plug into the inside of it. It's got ducting down the inside that then comes out and heats up your passengers back there. Then these lines here that go all the way back, those are the coolant lines that go back into the rear half of the body. Those are going to get eliminated if I end up taking that back body off. These are what run the heater back there. So they come out the back of the front body here, loop down, go into the rear body, and in here there's a whole heater. There's 12 volt. It all works just fine and heats up that whole rear cabin. But like I said, if this is going to go, all of this can go, this big electrical umbilical cord can go, and that's just a whole lot more stuff in this area that could get jammed up and cause you a problem or a leak when you're out in the field. Now, the main thing I need to upgrade on this Hagland is going to be lighting. So it's got lots of switches, lots of light switches. There's lights up front headlights. You've got all your stuff here, but none of it works. You see, this Hagland originally was built for the Swedish military. That's why it has the Swedish military scheme on the side of it and everything. And it would have originally been a 24 volt machine. Well, this system runs off of 12 volts. So basically what they did, as you can see by that mess of wiring right there, they pretty much eliminated everything that was 24 volt in this thing, except for the heater that's under there. This kind of fell off as we were driving it around yesterday. Except for the heater motor, it's under there. That's now a 12 volt to run the rear cabin heat, but yeah, yikes. And now because of that, not a single one of the exterior lights on this thing work, like nothing. But our oil pressure gauges, our water temperature gauges, RPM, transmission temperature, all of that stuff works. Alternator, everything in the engine, basically all the stuff that really needs to run and operate the thing does work. I don't know if this power source here actually works for your 12-volt plugins. The way it's wired in, I'm guessing that's something they put in afterwards, so probably works. Oh, and the heater works great. That was like a necessity they put in. Looks like our new washer and dryer just showed up. Okay, new washer and dryer are delivered and installed. Now back to the haggling and the fun part, which is driving this thing. Oh yeah, lights. None of those work. I'm not so worried about those working. I think I'm gonna put lights on all four corners of this unit at least, and if that goes away and I do some sort of bed setup there, there'll be lights on that facing backwards, probably up here high going down, and then down at the bottom facing back as well. Then winches. I gotta figure out how to put a winch on the front of this. This whole unit here bolts on and off, as you can see. So I don't know if it's take this off and build my own piece that bolts in there. I'm kind of more thinking take this off, cut this section out, and then welding in a winch mount to this piece and bolting it right back on. I'm more thinking that's what I'm gonna do, but I'm not 100% sure. As I said in the back, this whole body's probably gonna go and build some sort of a flatbed for like carrying utility stuff and gear, and maybe some side boxes and all that for everything, and then 2 winches that come off of fair leads on the back, so I can pull from kind of up high up there, or run through the fair leads back here and pull from down low, which means I wouldn't have to mess with any of this on the back, and I could leave all this alone to do like Yankum rope pulls on here. Speaking of Yankum rope pulls, we got to load that thing up with some gear. This right here is what we're going to use. This one bag. This is everything you need to get up into the mountains and do any sort of recovery that you'll get into. This is the Yankum Ropes Mountain Recovery Kit, and I worked with Yankum to kind of put together a package that is what I thought would be kind of the most comprehensive, all-in-one, everything you need package. Whether you're doing kinetic rope recovery pulls, winching, multi-part line setups, anything like that, you can grab this one bag, throw it in a pickup, throw it in something crazy like the Hagland, keep it in my tow truck, toss it in my wife's Jeep, or if I've been doing on a few recoveries here recently, throw it in the Blazer and you got everything you need. And yes, the Blazer is back to 100% and has been used on a few recoveries. Unfortunately, due to the nature of them, there was no filming. So yes, we've tested it out, and this one bag has proven to get a lot of stuff done. You know what? I'm going to pull everything out and lay it out here and show you what we got. So here it is. This is what I feel is the most all-in-one, comprehensive, whatever type of recovery you need kit that you can be confident you have everything you need to get the job done no matter what situation you get into. I worked with Yankum to kind of put this package together, and we'll go through it. You'll kind of see, I think this is, if I had to just grab one bag, no matter what I'm doing, and go, and that's all I can have, it would be this. But the best part is you can customize this kit. A lot of you guys already have recovery gear, or you might need something different than what you see here, and you can go to this kit on Yankum's site, which the link will be in the description down below, and the pinned comment take you right to the page for this kit, and you can buy it exactly as is, or you can customize it. Let's say, hey man, I already got quite a few tree savers, I don't need more. Cool, delete that out of there. Say I want more soft shackles than that because I get a little more goofy on the rigging. Cool, add some soft shackles to it. You want a 20-foot rope? Get a 20-foot rope. You want a 30-foot rope? Get a 30-foot rope. We'll go over in a sec why you would want the difference in those two. You got a bigger vehicle, your rope can be a 1-inch. You've got a Jeep SUV size thing, your rope can be a 7/8. This kit is entirely customizable. You can add to or remove from depending on what you already have or what your needs are. So start off, we got the Yankum hitch receiver tow point. This goes in any 2-inch hitch receiver, or you can upsize to the option for a 2.5-inch receiver if you got one of the bigger trucks with a class 4 hitch. This lets you hook in any hard shackle to it, any soft shackle to it. That way you can go off of that to winch rings. You can hook your kinetic ropes to it to do kinetic rope pulls, even tree savers off the back of it to do a solid strap pull if you need to do something like that. Then you have 1, 2, 3 of the double loop soft shackles in this kit. And I didn't include any of the standard length soft shackles in this. I went all with double loops because they do everything a standard length does, but they also give the option to just wrap right around an axle housing or things like that where you need a bigger reach to get around. Next up, we have 75 feet of winch extension. To actually explain the winch extension, I should do this different. Hold on. Reorder here. You go there, you go here. Now next up, we have the Yankum XL rings, made in Idaho, just like all of this stuff. Made in America with American materials. Quality gear. So these right here, the Yankum XL rings, you can go around the outside, you can also go through the center. That's where the double loop soft shackles come in if you start multi-parting these things to get maintain your strength ratings. But these allow you the option of doing a 2-to-1, 3-to-1, or 4-to-1 pull with just these two simple rings and these three soft shackles right here. Now, to explain why there's 75 feet of winch extension here, if you're doing a 4-to-1 pull, it's going to take you 4 times as much line to reach the same distance. So we use a winch extension right here, and with this winch extension and the fact that there are no hard hooks or thimbles on the end of it, you can hook this line to the winch line on your vehicle using a cow hitch type connection, which I've explained how to do in some other videos. And that connection can pass both around and through the rings, allowing you to do that long multi-part pull without having to stop and re-rig when you get to the end of your extension. Then we have 7/8 Yankum rope, the workhorse of the Yankum product line. These things have been used for so many recoveries. I would love to know how many vehicles have actually been recovered with a 7/8 Yankum rope, between all of the off-road recovery YouTube channels who use them, all the customers and enthusiasts who use them. I bet the number is astronomical. So you got a 7/8 inch recovery rope. Since this is the mountain recovery kit, since I do more of up in the mountains type recoveries, for me, I prefer a 20-foot rope because I don't have the long free running range to get to the end of the rope, stretch it out an extra 10 feet before, like, we're going around a corner or there's a tree there or something like that. So the shorter ropes have a little bit less stretch, but for me personally and the terrain I'm in, that shorter rope works a little better because, like I said, a 30-foot rope has more stretch, is more effective as kinetic energy pull, but it doesn't really help you if there's a tree 30 feet away. So I run the shorter ropes. I have both, but I prefer the shorter ropes. This is again where you can customize your kit for what works for you. Is if you're more in the tight, twisty road, mountains, stuff like that, lots of trees around, go with the 20-foot rope. If you're in sand, the dunes, more open snow terrain where you've got the room to do 30-foot runs, it is way more effective. Go with the 30. Also, you can customize the size of the rope and diameter. You got a bigger vehicle, you think you need the 1 inch, like with these full-size trucks right here, grab the 1 inch. You've got SUVs, Jeep, stuff like that, get you the 7/8. Finally, we got the Yankum Tree Saver because you need something to hook all this stuff to. If you're doing winch recoveries and multi-part in the ring, that can go around trees, it can be hooked off of vehicles, you can wrap around axles, the tie point, all kinds of stuff you can do with this, including using it as a super short, I believe it's 10 foot. 8-foot tow strap, and in a vertical, if you're using it as a straight out tow strap, good for 9,300 pounds. As a choker, it's always going to be your lowest rating, 7,400 pounds, and as a basket, like if you have it wrapped around a tree, 18,600 pounds. And the best part is all of this gear is stored in one bag as a set, so no matter what vehicle you're going to go hop into to head out to the woods or out into the outdoors for the day, you grab that one bag, you know you have everything you need to get the job done. For me, I have there's a lot of vehicles here, and I could be taking any one of them off out to a recovery. I've even stole my wife's Jeep and used it for recovery quite a few times, not since it has a 37s on it, so we need to do that actually now that I'm thinking about it. But I've always had the problem of digging through and fumbling through gear to go on a recovery. It's open up my side boxes here because I have some gear in every rig. I got a winch extension here, I got some shackles and a recovery ring, but I need to now, okay, let me add in a rope. Can we grab a tree saver, another ring just in case, a couple soft shackles, and I think we have enough? Or do I grab some of that out of there and put in this one that has some stuff? And it's always my hassle then hoping I have everything I need. This right here, I can grab that one bag, throw it in literally any vehicle I have, and I can go to work. And that simplifies everything and gives me the peace of mind that I am prepared for whatever I come across. So check out the link down below in the description or the pinned comment. Head over to Yankum's site, check out the Mountain Recovery Kit put together by myself See what works for you. You can add to it, you can take away from it, you can change the size of the ropes, you can do whatever you need to make this kit work for you. But this is a great baseline to get you what you need to get the job done. And also, as many of you know, I am a Yankum Ropes affiliate, so that link down below or the code CHR gets you 10% off whatever you buy on the Yankum site, whether it's this kit or not, and also gives me a little kickback that helps support this channel, and I appreciate that more than you know. Yankum has been incredible to work with since the very beginning of this channel. They were the first company that ever reached out for anything when I started this YouTube channel years ago, and they've been an amazing supporter from then on. So working with them to develop a kit like this can help out a lot more people, something I'm really happy to do. And yes, this probably is the most expensive recovery kit out there, but it's everything you need. It's not a, look at this kit's much cheaper, but now I also have to go buy that and that and that, and now wait a minute, we're back to expensive again. As I said, made in Idaho, all this stuff, American-made gear with American-made materials. This isn't your bargain quality stuff. This is premium American-made gear. If you want the best of the best, this is it. All right, I got a 360 camera and I got a tank, so let's fire it up and get to driving it. And I know this is technically not a tank, it's a troop carrier, but you know what? It's a military vehicle on tracks. I'm calling it a tank because I've never owned a tank before. So let's have some fun. Also, we're gonna leave this whole cover off because I wanna go through all of this stuff, maybe even change some plugs and wires and do a tune-up to it before we get into the season. So we're gonna run it without this stuff. Okay, cold start. I don't know which key. For this, because I never took them out before. It's definitely not a house key. I'm gonna say goofy looking key for a goofy looking vehicle. Nailed it. All right, let's no throttle, no nothing, just see if it starts. And that's cold start too. See, there's my hand on the exhaust. I like it. This thing does run like a freaking top. Hey Art, how's it going? Sorry, I had a phone call. What are you doing here? Where did you come from? Oh. Yeah. You're supposed to be right there. Well, kind of like that. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to do some figuring on what holds this on and why it fell off. But if you look, this is one of the ones that already had a chunk of its rubber off of it, and I have spares, so we'll just put one of the new ones on instead. I guess we should like check bolts too for our maintenance. We should definitely do that. I'm gonna go park it over by the water hose so that I can start rinsing this stuff out. Right there, should be good. Done. Okay, so some lessons learned. We gotta figure out what holds those wheels on and what we gotta tighten and check to make sure that no more wheels fall off. 'Cause that's an issue, apparently. But the good news is the wheel fell off and I kept on going and didn't even notice it. So it'll still run without it. That's handy. So basically what I'm getting at here is this thing is going to be a fun rig, but I have a whole lot to learn because I know absolutely nothing about these things, especially since this one is modified from what it was and the information you can find online. So I'm going to wash this thing off. I'm going to check into some maintenance and repair stuff on it. You guys are going to watch another video and we're all going to have a great rest of our day.